Hey, good morning. Today is another one of our first fives. Today, we're in John chapter 2. And this is one of those stories that at first glance doesn't make a lot of sense to us. At first glance, if we read it from our 21st century cultural view, we really don't get it. In fact, we'll just think it's some angry guy throwing a fit. But when we dig a little deeper, we see something greater in the text. And so this text from John chapter 2, we'll read it and then let's talk about it. So here's what the author writes. The Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. Making a whip of cords, he drove all of them out of the temple, both the sheep and the cattle. He also poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. He told those who were selling the doves, "Take these things out of here. Stop making my Father's house a marketplace." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then said to him, "What sign can you show us for doing this?" Jesus answered, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up." The Jews then said, "This temple has been under construction for 46 years, and will you raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple of his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. Now, at first glance, this is one of those weird kind of stories. You're like, yeah, it just means we shouldn't sell stuff at church. You know, like those Girl Scout cookies they sell in the foyer occasionally, or that kid's fundraiser for school, or the youth group wanting to sell something on Sunday mornings, and we go, nope, see, right there, can't do it. Well, that's a little short-sighted, and it's a little small picture. We're actually kind of missing what's actually happening here. Now, maybe those are things we don't want to do, but that's a whole other conversation. We can't use this text to decide that. So what is happening in this story? See, Jesus shows up in the temple, and what he sees disturbs him. What he sees is people who desire to worship God, and they show up, and they've brought their sacrifices from wherever they have come from. And they brought their animals, their doves, their cattle, their sheep, their goats, whatever it is they brought to sacrifice, depending on what the sacrifice was for. And when they show up, what they find is that when they get there, someone will tell them, hey, by the way, your sheep, your goat, your dove, it's got a blemish. You see that spot right there? That can't be. And so then what will happen is say, but we have a solution for you. You can buy one of our sheep, one of our goats, or you can buy one of our doves. But here's the thing about ours. They are specially bred for this, for sacrifice. So there's a premium charge for them. So you got to pay an upcharge to get what you desire here. And by the way, the only way you can sacrifice here is if you do this. And in fact, you brought dollars, but we take euros. So you have to change your money from dollars to euros. Oh, and the exchange rate, we're going to increase that a little bit so we can make a little more money. So what Jesus was seeing all around him was here were people showing up at the temple, the place that was supposed to be where God dwelt, coming to offer their sacrifice, to ask for forgiveness of their sins, to ask for their family to be blessed, to just worship God. And here, there were money changers making money on the exchange rate. There were businessmen trying to make money on cattle and saying it wasn't good enough. What he saw disturbed him because it was the opposite of God's heart. God's heart has always been, it'll be easy for us to come to him. He didn't desire some elaborate system with exchange rates and particular animals that you have to trade yours and then pay more. This wasn't God's desire. And Jesus comes to say, no. My Father's house is a house of prayer. The temple is not for this. And he goes on to say, here's how this works. In fact, you're not even getting the point of the temple. Because I'm going to destroy this place and in 3 days raise it up again. Now, they didn't get it either. That's why they said, what? This temple's been built for 46 years. This is Herod's temple. He's been building it forever. It's still being built. It's like, no, you don't get it. What I'm saying is this, the actual presence of God isn't going to dwell in that place. It's going to dwell in me, and then it's going to dwell in you. And so this kind of scene in which Jesus overturns these tables, often we think, oh yeah, it's just broken, so we're going to do this. But here's what we should also see. Jesus flipped over the tables of oppression. And that matters for us because we should see it as a call to live in such a way that we too flip over tables of oppression. See, God is always the God of the marginalized and the poor and the oppressed. And this picture is the picture of God's heart for those who are suffering and hurting. And so there's another thing we're called to do from this story. We're called to listen. See, Jesus, it wasn't his first time to the temple, so he had seen this before, and he had listened enough. And finally, it was time for him to cry out for those who were there. And he drives these people out because it is never to be the heart of God to be difficult to get to God. And so today, may you and I know this. We are called to be people who flip over tables of oppression when we see them. We do it because Jesus calls us to it. We do it because it's what love in action looks like. So hopefully this is an encouraging word for you today. And we'll catch you next time for another First Five.